Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Evening. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Hope you come back often and tell your friends about us. Before we start the show, I'd like to introduce Father Ron Walters for the show's prayer. Father Walters?
Almighty God, just as our models imitate the beauty of your creation, may we imitate your kindness and generosity to us in our relationship with others. Bless us now and always. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father. We appreciate all that you do for our show. Now I want to run the video for the show's sponsor, Brennan's Model Railroading, owned by Dennis Brennan.
For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products for the O-scale market. Our flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. Its prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, we've developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Additionally, we offer craftsman kits that anyone can build with complete photographically illustrated instructions that assume you've never done this before. The Sonky Wanky Coffee Company is the latest and the fourth kit to be added to our ongoing and highly popular limited edition Ellison Tribute series. These kits take Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level with Dennis spin. The idea being that if Frank were alive today, this is how we would build these models using modern methods and materials. Use the QR code to visit our website.
I want to cut the announcement short tonight because we've got a really long show, and I think you're really going to enjoy some of the segments that we've added to the show. The one announcement is the Sunshine Region's annual convention is October the 10th to 12th. It's being held in Ocala, Florida, which is right in the middle of the state of Florida. It's going to be at the Hilton Hotel, which is right off of I-75, so it's very easy to get to. Might be two blocks maximum off of 75 to the hotel. And they're really looking forward to a great convention. One of the things that they wanted me to mention is if you're interested in attending, they're looking for clinicians. So if you have a project that you're working on or something that you'd like to talk about, if you can give them some information, they really would appreciate it because they are looking for some more clinicians. Other than that, they've got some fantastic railroads for you to see and some really interesting prototype tours. So I think it'll be a great convention. And like I say, the one thing that they're lacking on right now is clinicians. So if you have a project, please let them know. And their website is www.nmraSunshineRegion.org. And I hope that you'll be able to attend it and hope you'll be able to do a clinic if you have a project for them. Well, that's all the announcements for tonight. So what I want to do now is go to Phil Edholm. Phil attended the Pittsburgh 44th Narrow Gauge Convention and took a lot of videos. And Phil, I'll let you talk about them.
Thanks, Jim. Wanted to briefly introduce that we actually had a number of you. We all saw each other, I think, at the convention. The narrow gauge convention this year was in Pittsburgh. Um, what we've got is we've got a whole bunch of pictures and videos and other things from the convention. So we're going to try to put that together into some opportunities to have discussions for those that weren't able to be there, those that were there. So what we'll be doing is we'll actually be in starting probably later in October, and then we're looking at in November having our caboose become a convention review. So we're probably going to have a session on the contest room, go through the contest room. There were a bunch of amazing models there. We'll have pictures of them and some videos. Tom and I were able to go on the EBT tour. We got some great videos of that. We were able to get a speeder ride on a single cylinder speeder. It was pretty cool, and a really cool shop tour. Kind of amazing when you look at the shops there. And then there were we were able to see 8 of the 11 layouts while we were there. We got a lot of videos of that and pictures. So the idea is to kind of make that some content. But what I'm going to do is throw it over to Tom, and Tom's going to talk a little bit about, some things from the convention. And, let me be the first to congratulate Tom, and that Tom took a building that we all saw in New Tracks a while back, not that long ago, a few weeks back, to the convention, and was rewarded with some pretty amazing awards at the convention. But I'll let him talk. So, Tom, why don't I throw it off to you?
Okay, thank you for the introduction. Yeah, hold on one moment. So there was a bunch of us at the National Narrow Gauge Convention in my hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I'm going to give you a little teaser of some of the models that I thought were extraordinary. And then, as Phil indicated, Phil will give us a big overview of all the contest winners, the layout tour, and the EBT tour. So I was when they had the banquet at the end, the very end of the show, the awards banquet. They said the models at this particular conference were some of the best they've ever seen. I had never been to a national conference, but this is the kind of quality we're talking about. I mean, that's just extraordinary modeling there. This is everything I'm showing you is scratch built. And again, these are just teaser shots. Phil will go into detail on all the different, there's steam motive power, there was logging equipment, cabooses, passenger cars, structures, dioramas, etc., etc. Interior detail on that particular car. And another close-up. This one, first place steam motive power.
Hold it. Could somebody mute themselves, whoever's sawing? Thank you.
Okay. Makes for great video. This was approximately 2 inches in length and was remarkably tiny and remarkably well detailed. I mean, this is an extreme magnification here. One of our red shirts, Aaron Loyette, gear locomotive with an Ian Flanger's figure here from Australia. Look at the detail and the highlights on that. That's just beautiful modeling. And I was fortunate to win the first place in structures. You folks that have tuned into the show before, mid-June, I won this this model won the best of show at the Harrisburg show. And I was pleased that I won at this show. It features 3 modelers, and Alan Littlefield, John Allen, Al Judy and Alan Littlefield, and this is a photo of Alan Littlefield and me and the model. And there's a close-up of John Allen himself, the late Al Judy, and Mr. Littlefield. Other close-up, stock prices collapse again. So I model in 1930. Just some quick shots of my model. Seem to be skipping a slide here. Hold on a moment. Okay. In addition to winning Best of Show, I won unexpectedly. I was minding my own business, and they called up the best wooden model of the show, sponsored by Mount Albert's Scale Lumber, and it's called the Midwood Memorial Award. Now, to be honest, I don't exactly know who Midwood is, but we have one of our participants, Larry McDonald, actually knew Mr. Midwood, and perhaps Larry could give us a little short background on exactly who Midwood was.
Harold was a Canadian model. He lived here in Toronto, Ontario, and he modeled in ON3. And he was one of he was in with the pioneers. And the reason I say that, when he started to build models, to have wheels, he would have to order the centers that were cast, and then he'd have to sweat the tires on using insulation paper out of old transformers. And from there, he became renowned for his knowledge in building, and it was all Denver Grand RGS locomotives. So much so that when Precision Scale had a fire at their business and a lot of the models were ruined, they contacted Harold to see if he could reassemble them, only because a fire in a store down in Pennsylvania, all the material went down into the basement, and he went there and gathered it up in garbage bags, brought it home with his wife, sifted it like you would if you were mining, and with shaker boxes, and found all these parts, cataloged them, and put about 5 models back together complete. And he had a large ON3 layout. Harold's been gone now about 15 years more. I could go on and on, but you said make it short.
Once I got the background of Mr. Midwood, I was deeply flattered that my stick build here was chosen by Mount Albert, and as I informed them, it is actually their wood. So
yes.
So now I'd like to turn over to Steve Sherrill. And Steve?
Yes. Thank you, Tom. One of the attendees that went to the 44th National Narrow Gauge Convention was the Cleto family. You have Christine, the mom, Brian, the dad, Andrew, who's 15, and Michael, who's 11. Now, at the narrow gauge conventions, it's kind of unusual to see a complete family go. The 2 youngsters, and I'm going to call you youngsters. This is the last time, youngsters, because you are now fellow modelers, because you are winners and have won at a national narrow gauge convention. So you're now young modelers, okay? No longer boys or anything like that. So I just want to say one thing about Christine, the mom. I happen to know this family because of the many times that we go to meets, and I see these young fellows and the family. I want to reach out and say thank you to the mom, Christine, for what she's done to keep these boys on the right track and also just being a mother and giving the guidance they need. It's very important. The dad, Brian, is an ON30 modeler who is a very good modeler, and he takes this family not only to conventions and meets, but also to prototype museums, rail fests, things like this. So they're a railroad family. Now, the young boys, if I can get them on, put those on, put Brian, if you'll.
I have us off mute, Steve. You guys should see us. Okay, there we are. Christy's just off screen here.
Okay. All right. Hi guys. How you doing?
Pretty good, Steve.
Hey, it's good to see you. You had a great time at the convention?
Yeah.
Yep, it's got a lot of great models.
Yeah. These young guys have been on here a couple of years ago when we started building a small layout. I don't know if you remember that. Maybe we have pictures of that completed layout now. That they worked on that layout for 2 years together, and it looks very nice, and was presented at the convention, but at their booth. Now, if you would show a picture, first off, Andrew, you won what? A first for a scratch-built hand pump car and trailer?
Yep.
Do you have a picture of that?
Yeah, give us a second to get it pulled up here.
Okay.
Scroll down. Scroll down first.
Michael, who is 11 years old, he won a second with his 40 conversion, which actually was based on a 2019 ON30 annual cart before the horse article. Then Andrew also took third with this critter, an A14. There's the layout right there. Now the layout dimensions are what?
They're
Andrew,
20.
can you tell me what are the dimensions of that?
The dimensions of the layout are approximately 24 inches by 42.
Okay. Now they worked on this themselves and did all the landscaping. And they took it to the convention, and I'm sure that I saw pictures of people talking to you about the layout. So I know that it was well received. I know it never stopped running. There's Michael. There's Michael doing it right now. He's running it.
Yeah, that was at the Exile meet in East Broad Top. So these are just the growth of the layout, or the timeline for how the layout came about. So just to give you an idea, this is at the mid Hudson Exile meet at the East Broad Top that Dave Camisa put on there a couple years back. So
this family goes to many of the meets and get-togethers for the ON30 group. They're also Red Hats. Excuse me. The Red Hats group, which assists at all the events, and they really do a wonderful job. These young guys, the young modelers, Andrew is 13. Everybody has nothing but good things to say about these young men. They are outstanding. They have great character. They're great examples of the modeling youth that we're looking for. I think that they certainly demonstrate that model railroading has a good future. Here are two young people who at 13 and 15, excuse me, at 11 and 15 are going to be around for a long time in this hobby. They know a lot of the very good ON30 modelers now, and the modelers know them. So when they go to a convention or meet, these young people actually participate in all the clinics. They ask questions. They want to know who, what, when, why, and how things are done. And then they'll sit down. If it's a participation type of clinic, they will then proceed to do what is going on at the clinic. They're learning. They're doing a great job. They're wonderful young men. Okay, can we see some pictures of their mom?
Thanks, Steve.
Should be next. This would be my critter A14, which won 3rd place.
Okay, now this is a Dillon 3D print. Am I correct?
The cab is the engine and the cab are. The bell is Bachmann, as is the headlight and the air tanks. Everything else is styrene or kidnapped HO parts.
Is this DC, or battery powered?
It's DC.
DC, okay. The next one?
So this one, this is the 2nd place. This is one that Michael built. Where did you get the idea for this one, bud?
The 2019
19.
annual.
And who built the original engine?
Alan Littlefield.
So, we were on vacation a couple years ago, and Michael and Andrew were looking through the ON30 annuals that I took to pass the time. And he pointed to the cart before the horse article and said, "Daddy, I want to build this." And I said, we can do that. I said, but I'm going to introduce you into the guy that built the original model and and wrote the article. So, both boys and Alan and several other modelers that have been on here are very good modeling buddies, and are always bashing ideas back and forth. So
that was Alan Littlefield.
this was Alan Littlefield's build that inspired this this entry into the contest. So this is DC model. Steve, I know you like the dead rail, but we haven't got around to dead rail in it yet.
Okay, well, you've got plenty of time in the future.
Yep. Yeah. So there's the other side of it.
So you did the detail work?
Michael did all of it. The only thing I assisted on was cutting the frame.
Okay. And this is the first place?
Oh, sorry. Yep, this is the first place one. I'll let Andrew talk about it.
So I was talking about building this at Harrisburg at the June meet. I actually acquired the frame and most of the parts for it there. But anyways, I'm sitting at my workbench downstairs, tinkering. I had some bracelet rubber bands sitting there. And a motor out of an RC car. One thing led to another, and I super glued the motor to the underside of a Bachmann bobber caboose frame, stuck a rubber band on one axle, and around the motor drive, they call the pole?
The shaft.
And stuck a battery to it. It doesn't run well currently. I have to do some work to it. But she picked up a nickname real quick.
You made a battery powered with a rubber band drive?
Yep.
Wow.
She picked up a nickname real quick. Speed Demon.
Yeah. It sings around the layout pretty quickly, but definitely innovative. And this was something he put together on it, without really telling me. When we entered it into the contest room, he noted that it was powered, so it does run, which is pretty neat.
Are the chains on there for Al Judy?
Yeah.
To a degree.
Yeah.
Can you show the drive? Do you have it, the underside of that? I'd love to see that.
We don't have
a picture of
it, Steve, but I have the thing sitting right here. So
go through. Are there any others?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
This isn't gonna be the best quality. You
Yeah.
dip it down.
So,
I don't have the battery or anything mounted. It's just the motor and the rubber band. But normally there'd be a battery about here where my pinky is.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
just like the old Atherns, the rubber band drive from
Well, no,
back in the beginning. So
that is very good. That, very original. I like that. I like that. So I understand you also got an award for that they hadn't given out in what, 15 years? A youth award? Is
yeah,
that right?
they received Mount Albert and Ultimation makes Automation makes some great a great sander and a chopper that really helped the hobby, and it was products that we use all the time. But they sponsored the youth category, and they said the last time that they gave out a youth award at one of the conventions was 15 years ago, and they after seeing the boys' entries and knowing them, we've met them on several occasions at the Harrisburg show. Great people with both companies. I can't say enough about them, but they they presented the boys with a bundle of scale lumber that was used in the demonstrations throughout the convention rather than that stuff getting thrown out. They gave it to the boys to work on their scratch building and their kit bashing, but they also gave them an Ultimation sander and then the cutter as well. It was very a real honor for them to receive this and a shock to us as well, because it definitely appreciated, and the grin on these guys' face when they came back past me, because I was helping give out the awards. When they came, back past me carrying the sander and the chopper, it was grinning. They were grinning from ear to ear. So
I
Already
understand. that
dreaming of their next projects, yeah. To use.
I understand that Charlie Getz actually mentioned you two in his talk at the end of the show, and he said you guys were the real deal.
Yeah.
Now, I think that is highly complimentary of you young guys. Charlie's been around a long time, and he tells it like it is, jokingly sometimes, but he knows he can see quality. You
Yeah,
guys have got a real
Charlie
good
had. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
You got a real good future. A lot of people are on your side, and you're the kind of young guys who are so inquisitive, and people are always willing to help you because you're much more mature than your age, it seems. I know when you approached me a couple of times, Andrew, with the stuff that you've done in battery power, you kind of amazed me, and and so I take notice of what you young guys are doing. I just am glad that you're my friends. So I'll be looking to I don't know, Timonium. I don't know if you're going to Timonium or not, or
We won't be at Timonium, but we will be at your January gathering of minis. We're coming up for that.
I expect a micro layout.
It'll be there. So yeah, one thing with the boys and Christy and myself, the great modelers that have become mentoring not only for the boys but us as well, and it made such an impact on our hobby. I can't name all of them, but Steve and Alan Littlefield, Alan Carroll, Michael actually met him before he passed away a couple years ago. Al Judy, Dan Wolshon, the list goes on and on of great modelers that You know, when these guys were real small, Clem Ovech had them running a battery G-scale engine on concrete floor. Michael thought it was the greatest thing ever. George Sarah and the guys from Bricktown. Um, that's what we need for the hobby. You know, everybody, it seemed like when I was growing up, everybody was scared to have kids around their trains, whether it was Lionel or American Flyer. But, you know, these guys, you know, in the ON30 group particularly have, welcomed them with open arms, and, you know, let them run their battery trains and let them run their DCC stuff. You know, they spent more time at the convention running other layouts than they did running their own. They'd turn it on and let it run, and it'd go for hours, and they'd be, you know, checking on it from time to time, but running, you know, the Connecticut Shoreline group, the EBT ON3 layout, they help those guys out a lot, and they welcome them in. And I can't tell you how much that's appreciated, that, you know, you're encouraging, you know, the kids to be involved and not be afraid that, you know, they're gonna either break something. So
Let me ask Andrew or Michael. Do you have friends who are interested in trains? You know,
Our age?
well, sure.
Yeah.
Do you have?
I've been in school now, what, 13 years? I have met, just last year, I met a high school senior. We actually built a train layout together who was interested in trains.
Okay, and you go to what school? You go to a private school?
Sarah Catholic High School.
Okay. And where do you live? Are you in Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Okay. What town?
we're over near in the Pittsburgh area.
The Pittsburgh area. Okay.
Guys, I hate to do this. I'd love to have this discussion go on for hours, but I've got to stop it because we're just running too long here. Guys, I thank you so much for being here this evening. We really do appreciate it. Steve, thank you for inviting everybody and being the host for this segment. And I hope that you fellas will consider coming back to our show. Our shows are all about modeling and mentoring. Frankly, if the people that your dad mentioned did not help you, then the skills that they have are going to die with them. To be able to help you and to share with you their abilities and their knowledge, that's what our shows are all about. So I would hope that if you want to, you'll come back and show your models in our My Bill segments that we do once a month. And we'd love for you and your dad to come back and show your models and talk about what you're doing and be a part of our show, because you are the future of our hobby. Without you, we won't have a hobby down the road. So you are the future of it, and anything that we can do to try to encourage you, to help you, to provide any guidance to you, that's what the people on this show would love to be able to do. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Congratulations on your achievements and the awards that you've already obtained. I'm sure you're going to have, that's just a small number of what you're going to get in the future. And you ought to be extremely proud of yourself. So Dad, Mom, thank you so much for bringing your kids here this evening. Steve, thank you so much for doing this.
All right.
No problem
Thanks.
at all.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, sir.
You know.
Well, now I want to turn to S-Scale Modeling. We have a sponsor for this segment, National Association of S-Gaugers. And Phil, I'd like to run their promotional video.
Are you looking for something a little different in your model railroading? The National Association of S-Gaugers suggests you take a look at S-Scale. An S-Scale model is just 36% longer than an HO model, but it's 2.5 times the volume. The larger size translates to increased ease of maintenance, more durable details, and improved electrical and mechanical reliability. S-Scale modelers use accurately proportioned wheels and track systems with KD-style couplers. Exceptional S-Scale models and layouts are being built in both standard and narrow gauge. Locomotives and rolling stock are available from a number of manufacturers in both ready-to-run and kit form. Equipment is available both new and through an active secondary market. There are numerous manufacturers of track, buildings, vehicles, and details, both ready-to-run and in kit form, available for those who love to build. And many S modelers enjoy kit bashing and scratch building in the larger size S offers. To learn more, visit the website of the National Association of S-Gaugers. Here you will find the history of the scale, information about clubs in your area, see layouts and connect with current manufacturers and online groups, plus much more. In short, the website has everything you'll need to explore model railroading in S-Scale today. Come on board and visit soon.
And now I want to introduce the host for this segment, Jamie Bothwell. Jamie, welcome.
Hi, Jim. How you guys doing tonight?
Great.
I was trying to find something that I've been working on. Most of what I've been working on lately has been building, trying to actually build a layout. So that doesn't really translate to pictures very well. Number one, because there's not a whole lot to see, and number two, it's in the basement and the Wi-Fi doesn't go down there. But I thought I would start off with a couple of quick. Let's see, where's my screen share thing? A couple of quick product announcements. Let me see if I go to this. Which spot? Share. All right, well, I'll try this. Okay, yeah, this should work. Let's see. Okay, first of all, Bill's Train Shop, BTS, right there on the front page, you can see. Bill's Train Shop has recently introduced this McCabe oil column, type 1 or type 2 in S-scale. And I ordered the type 1 one here. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, there's mine. Still in the box. Just got it the other day. Brand new, hot off the press, all right? And here's another one. Let me see if I can find this. Where did I put that? Google Drive. Okay. This actually segues into Joel's segment. This is a brand new covered hopper that's 3D printed. I don't know if you'd call it a kit even. It's almost exactly as it comes out of the printer. I don't know how much of it you have to actually assemble. You would have to paint it and put decals on it too. But anyway, the reason it segues into Joel's is because apparently some of these are going to be available at the S-Fest. The guy who is working on this, he lives up in Minnesota, and he's supposed to come to S-Fest and bring a few along with him. So anyway, so I thought one of the projects I was working on lately was I went to a friend of mine's house up in Canada, and he was missing a train station. And the train station in his town, he lives in a town called Marlbank. Actually, he lives out in the woods, but the closest town is this town called Marlbank. And they have this train station. There it is right there. There it is back in history. This was from the Bay of Quinte Railway. And they built 6 identical stations, although one is reversed, like the baggage one's on the other end. And they built them out of cement because the railroad held a lot of cement. So the train stations were fairly sturdy, and these 6 train stations are all still around today. 5 of them are used as residences. And so anyway, I took a couple pictures of this one in his town. And this isn't my photo, but I took a couple pictures. But somebody was using it as a house, so I didn't want to be too obtrusive. So I didn't want to measure anything. So I went online and found these pictures, and I did my absolute best to sort of scale it up from what I saw. And so then let me see, I'm going to just stop the share here. So I came home and built this model of it. And I built it and I took it up to the guy and I went to give it to him, and he had already built the station for the space that he wanted. So it kind of got to a point and I really didn't go much further on it. I was going to, paint up the stone underneath, and actually there was going to be a loading dock on there, and I was going to put a door in with the freight doors there, you can see. But anyway, took me about 10 tries, 15 tries to get this bay window roof right, because the rear weird shaped trapezoids in there, but I just kept cutting them out. Every day I'd cut a new one, come home and say, nope, got to be a little like this, got to be a little like that, try to cut a few pieces off. But anyway, then next year when I went up to see him, of course, then I went out. Let me just go back to the screen share again here. Let's share. Okay. And so then I went to one of the towns of Aaronsville has one, and the one in Aaronsville is used by the road department, so they don't really care. You can walk right up to it and put a tape measure to it. So that's my friend Jeff. I probably should go. I can't see my arrow. There we go. If I close all the people. So there's Aaronsville. And of course, when you get up there and actually put a tape measure to the thing, you find out all the mistakes you made. One of the things I noticed was I figured that these windows would have been equidistant from the end walls, but guess what? They're not. It's closer over here than it is over here, right? So anyway, but I thought I did pretty good job. I mean, when I measured it, a lot of the stuff came out pretty close, considering I was just working from a photograph. But that was my, that's sort of my tip for the day is that, how to size things off a photograph. So, you kind of look at a door or a window and sort of say, well, that should be about this big or that should be about that big. And, I managed to size it all up and it really came out pretty well. I was kind of pleased with it overall, although now it's kind of a station without a home. So anyway, all right, well, that's all I got. I'll do my best to get you back on time here. I'll be a little short tonight. So.
Well, thank you so very much, Jamie. Anybody got any questions for Jamie? Jamie, thanks so much here.
Sure.
Look forward to seeing you next time.
Okay, bye.
Well, now I want to turn to the S high rail modeling. And for that, we have our sponsor is American Models, and I'd like to run their video.
American Models, manufacturers of quality S-scale equipment for more than 40 years. We have 13 types of locomotive: the Alco FA2 freight engine, the Alco PA1 passenger diesel, RS3 and RS11 road switchers, EMD, FP7, GP9 R18, GP35, E8 passenger engines, and Amtrak F40 PH diesels, the Baldwin S12 switcher, Fairbanks Morris Trainmaster, and the GE U25B. And of course, the classic GG1 electric. We also manufacture 11 types of freight cars, 2 styles of caboose, and heavyweight and Bud streamlined passenger cars. We have our own line of track and roadbed. We provide parts and service for everything we sell. Check us out at AmericanModels.com or call us at 734-449-1100.
And the host for this segment is not with us this evening. He had a conflict, Joel Weber, but Chris Rathner has volunteered to step in and take over for Joel this evening. Chris, welcome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, Jim. Hello, everybody. I'll do the best I can. It might come across as a little disjointed because Joel threw this at me on Monday evening, and it's been a kind of a busy week, but we'll see if everything works here. Let me get the screen share going. Let's see.
I also might mention that the video that you just saw about American Models was produced by Chris, and I think he did a beautiful job. Thank you.
Okay, I've obviously done something wrong. Let's see.
There you go.
There we go. Just throw it in slideshow mode.
That's what I did.
Just move your up to the top.
Are you sharing your screen? Why don't you?
Yeah, I hit.
Here.
He's sharing it, Phil. All you gotta do is hit slideshow.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. Go ahead. Share it. Share screen again.
Says I am.
No, you're not.
Okay, sorry. Just a minute.
So share screen. Do you have 2 screens?
I've got 3.
Okay, so just go ahead and share this. Put your slides into slideshow mode.
Yeah.
And then they should show up on one of your screens.
I know.
And that's the one you want to share.
Yeah, I thought I had it all right last night. Let's see.
Yeah, I think we were saying something. We were actually saying the edit version, not the slideshow version.
You were seeing the presenter's view, not the.
Yeah, not even the presenter's view. I think we were seeing actually the editable file view.
Okay. Let's see. Do you have it now? Let's see. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, I see what's happening. Just a moment. Let's see if I can view. It's going to the wrong screen for the
You had it open a minute ago.
isn't technology wonderful? Even
Oh,
when you
yeah.
think you got it. Let me restart it and see if we can get the show on the road literally. Okay, file. Let's try that again.
Chris, would you like for me to go to the next one and come back in a few minutes to you?
Just a moment. I should be just, let's see, show on. Let's try that, and let me click this again. Okay. Oh, okay. There we go. Let's see if this doesn't do it.
There you are.
You got it now?
Just bring it up. Double click.
Yeah,
Now go to slideshow and click on that.
I am.
No, you're not. Your arrow's not on slideshow. Over one. Nope. Up.
Go down to the bottom right, all the way down to the bottom right, all the way down to the bottom right, right. No, go back. There's a little, what looks like a little slide screen there. A little bit to the right. Move your mouse right.
Oh, that
click,
one.
click.
There. We got it now?
No, the problem is you're not sharing the right screen. You're sharing.
Let me come back to you.
Okay,
Chris.
go ahead and come back to me. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, okay.
Bye.
So, you know, isn't technology wonderful? So let me go to Jeff Jordan. And Jeff is going to do some figure painting using a new technique that he's developed that he says is so easy that even I can do it. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you. Let me see. Now let's see if I can launch my screen. No. Not sharing the right screen. There we are. Now all I got to do is get it in the slideshow mode and we'll be good. And there's the slide screen. Okay. Figure painting for people who can't paint figures, which at the start of this process included me. For years, I've been intimidated by the concept of painting figures. I would paint locomotives, paint freight cars, paint structures. But when it came to the little people, I was afraid that anything I would make would be a mess and would be unhappy to put it on my layout. And so I went into a process of searching for techniques to paint figures. So tonight I'm going to give you an introduction and next week we'll start painting. So why figures? Figures adds life to the scene and scale to the scene. These are just a couple of shots on my layout, though the scenery isn't done yet. On the left there, you may have seen that structure before. That's the machinery house for my mine, and it has full interior detail. And so I decided to leave off the siding so you could see the interior, but that looked kind of funny. And so the idea was get a couple of carpenters there who are putting the siding on. And so those are Artista figures, and they're pretty decent figures, and they came painted. So they're the exception to the rule, where I could find just the figure I wanted and a decent paint job, and literally they could go onto the layout. The fellows on the right are trying to figure out how to re-rail that derailed snowplow. They are Woodland Scenics figures, and they leave a lot to be desired. The fellow on the left looks like somebody walked up behind him and yelled boo. The big white googly eyes. And if you look at him even more closely, you'll find flash, molding seams, just, you know, they're passable, but I'd like to have better. Factory figures, that's what I'm talking about. The fellow on the left there is a Woodland Scenics engineer. I really like to have engineers in my locomotives, especially in ON30. The cabs are relatively large and you can see that there's nobody driving. So the fellow on the left is a Woodland Scenics figure straight out of the box. I trimmed his legs off to fit him in the cab, but again, he's got the googly eyes. He's got kind of a silly looking bandana. He's got that goofy symbol on his hat. The paint at places it runs over the edges. The fellow on the right is an early effort on my part to clean up, again, a Woodland Scenics figure, especially the face, but there was better to come. The solution. We all know Ian and his amazing figures, and it's very intimidating to see these guys with plaid jackets and so forth. And I'm not going there. I need figures that aren't pre-painted and ready to go. And I picked them out. For example, a lot of good engineers and firemen out there, other railroad figures, all come unpainted. And so the question was, how am I going to paint these guys? I went down a rabbit hole. I sat on YouTube for hours watching videos on how to paint figures. And all of these guys are military modelers or people who just model figures. And they're the center of attention. They lavish hours on their figures. They make it look hard, frankly, because they start with multiple layers of paint. They build up, they paint in the shading, they provide fine detail, and it's very intimidating. And frankly, it takes some effort and some skill to do that. And then I came to the realization that I had played with painting the faces and painting in the eyes and painting in the irises and so forth, and realized, one, it was very hard to do. And second, you don't need to do it. That our figures are part of the scenery. They don't require fine detail. They need to look natural, flat. They need to blend in. So they have basic coloring, but they don't have to be finely detailed. You don't have to paint the button that holds the guy's pocket shut and so forth. So by experimentation, I devised the simplified method I'm going to show you in the next 2 weeks, which gives me, I think, very acceptable figures with, frankly, very little figure painting skill on my part. Painting supplies. Not a lot involved here. Paint, I use the Vallejo paint, a little bit more on that in a subsequent slide. Assorted small brushes. I figured you don't need to see pictures of. I went to Michael's or Hobby Lobby and bought, they sell assortments of like 8 small brushes and a miniature set. Some of them are chisels, some of them are round, some of them are pointers. They're inexpensive. Keep them clean, throw them away and replace them when you need to. Palettes and mixing tools. This is part of the technique. You're going to need to thin your paint. I just picked up a couple of little steel tins and you'll see those in a subsequent picture in the same aisle where they sell the paintbrushes. Magnification. Maybe some of you may be blessed with stronger vision than I, but as you can see there, I use that style of binocular magnifier. You can find those on eBay from anywhere from 20 to 30 bucks. The lenses are interchangeable. It has an LED lamp just above the lens there. And in this particular version, it's rechargeable rather than battery powered. I originally had a battery powered one and I used up an awful lot of batteries. The batteries would basically go after an hour and a half of work, whereas this, you can recharge it. And then various files here. I've got, little the nail file type files, also the small steel files, something that you can get in small gaps and nooks to clean up the figures, and the X-Acto knife with the number 11 blade, again, to clean up the figures. And that's pretty much it. You'll see I use 1 or 2 other things. I use a primer and I use a clear fixative when I'm all finished and happy. So paint, there are a lot of choices out there, but I've settled on the Vallejo line. One, they're easily accessible to me. They sell them at Hobby Lobby. They have a lot of really nice flat colors. This happens to be the colors, the basic skin colors I use. But they have all of the railroad type colors you could ever need. And I have found that though they sell their own thinner and they sell their own delay stuff that slows the drying of the paint. I found after some experimentation that I didn't need either of those, and that I just thinned them with a little bit of deionized water with no minerals in it, and it worked very nicely. And then I find it cleans up beautifully with isopropyl alcohol. It takes all the paint out of the brush, and if you spill, it cleans it up well, but also water cleans it up. Indeed, if you overpaint a little bit, you can take it off with a little damp cloth and wipe it off. And yeah, Vallejo paints, people complain that they're expensive, but I've never used up a bottle of Vallejo paint. You use such a small amount, especially for these figures. I'll find that I use a few drops out of these bottles on each figure. And so this tiny little bottle is actually going to go a very long way. Figures. This is an important part of the process. I discovered that, and one of the things that really got me going was using figures like this from the Aspen Modeling Company. They're available online. I believe that they are 3D printed, and they are printed with extremely fine detail. You'll see this fellow, the oil man, in several subsequent pictures, but you can even begin to see here, notice the nice detail, not just the edge of his jacket overlapping his overalls, but you can see the seams in his overall. His face is nicely chiseled. The fabric of his clothing is nicely sculpted. And that will all be important for this technique, because my technique does take advantage of the deeper sculpting of the figure, and really flat figures. And some of the manufactured figures are more flat. It doesn't work as well, but it still works. But pick your figures. I found that Aspen is really nice. I found that the unpainted Artista figures also are a good place to start from. But you can also repaint factory painted figures like the Woodland Scenics figures. And though they're not quite as well sculpted, using a little bit of this technique, you will come up with, I think, a figure that's much more acceptable than what you get out of the box from Woodland Scenics. At least you get rid of the googly eyes. Here's some more figures. The fellow on the left is an engineer from Aspen Models. I really like this figure. I think I may get more than one of him and paint them differently so they can go in more than one locomotive. Again, notice the detail. Notice the wrinkling on his shoulder and on his pants. Notice the detail on his face. And notice that he comes without legs. If you're like me working in ON30, there is very little room in the cab. And you should see my collection of cut off legs. I have altered a lot of figures to get guys into the cab. And so the fact that this guy comes without his legs, you just take that sprue off of the bottom and work from there. I didn't even bother painting these legs, and he's now in the cab of a locomotive. I think he's a terrific figure. The fellow on the right is an Artista figure. He's actually just slightly started there. He's got not even finished the flesh coloring, but I forgot to take a picture of him before I just barely began to paint him. But again, you can see he's got some nice definition. Look at the definition around his shirt collar, the suspenders on his pants, his cap is all nice definition. He's got some decent facial features, which again, you're going to bring out in the painting process. And this fellow has had his legs cut off. And then this is the last one I'm going to do tonight on the introduction, but this is really what I'm after. And these two photographs actually teach you an awful lot about doing your model railroad figures. Let's start with the one on the right. I have done now exactly that figure, a fella standing on the roof. He's actually on the brake wheel, but that's exactly the effect I was going for. And probably if you view them from this distance, you're close. But again, you see several things. Notice the wrinkling, the highlights and dark spots on his clothing. Notice the brim of his hat and the shadow across his face underneath the brim of the hat. The engineer you just see an arm there. So there's not too much to learn from the engineer. The fellows on the left are really instructive. I'm not too interested in the guys on the right in the suits. There are not a lot of suits on my layout, but there are a number of guys like the fellows on the left, and I really like the way they look. Notice several things. For example, the guy second from the left, notice the deep wrinkles in his pants, the bright knees and the dark wrinkles. Notice their caps and the shading. The same guy has got the pork pie style cap, and there's a dark shadow between the hat and the brim, and then there's a shadow on his face. Notice the guy on the right. Again, a shadow on his hat, dark shadow on his face, wrinkles on his pants. These are all things that bring these guys to life. And unlike your boxcar model or your structure, where the room lighting will more or less give you shadows on the model, your figures don't get shadows from the room lighting. You've got to paint in the shadowing effect, the highlights and the shadows. And that's what got intimidating. Well, gee, do I have to do 4 coats of paint and paint shadows and paint highlights and so forth, like they do in the YouTube videos? And as you'll see as I go along next week, the answer is no. That the technique that I've developed, though it's not super detailed and it's not museum quality and it's not Ian's figures, but it's acceptable figures. One last important lesson I want you to learn from looking at these guys. You can't see the whites of their eyes. Indeed, you really can't see their eyes at all. All you see is shadows where their eyes are. Remember that when you go to paint these guys. You don't paint white eyeballs, you don't paint irises, you don't do anything of that. You just shadow where the eye sockets are. Again, the guy up on the upper right, you can't see his eyes there at all. And these fellows, even close up, all you see is the eye sockets with a shadow. And so that's what I'm looking for when I start painting. So that's my introduction for tonight. And then next week, I'll actually get the paints out and you will see how I go from the bare figure into the techniques of coloring their face, their hands, their clothing, all the way to a finished model. But that's where we are for now.
Anybody have any questions for Jeff right now? Jeff, thank you so much. Looking forward to next week. This sounds like a great technique that even I can do.
That's the idea. I don't want, when you're done, you shouldn't be intimidated. You will see that there's not that much to getting these basic figures. And you'll see several of my products at the end here where I had no previous experience painting figures.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Now let me go back to Chris. Chris, how's it going?
Well, are you seeing my starting slide?
I'm seeing a slide. Yes, sir.
Okay, then I guess we're going. So
fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. So as I apologized earlier that, I might be a little bit disjointed, but this was a project that I started many years ago. And I finally resolved myself to finish everything. And I call it an A.C. Gilbert American Flyer coulda, woulda, shoulda story. And by that, I mean, it's because this is something that Gilbert could have made. And I chose to do it in that vein, partially because it's a little bit easier as opposed to cutting up cars and splicing shells and everything. So these are a style of car that A.C. Gilbert made in they actually made them pre-war, but they were still stamped sheet metal then. So these are post-war cars. The one on the bottom in the New Haven is that's up to about 1950. And then from 50 on, why they cheapened the cars and went to a different, they went to a plain plastic that was painted, and they went to a stamped metal chassis. And here's an example of the two types of chassis. And this car is modeled after an Osgood Bradley
streamlined car developed in 1934 for the New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad. And I'd become a fan of that railroad because A.C. Gilbert was also located in New Haven, Connecticut. And so about 1954, the New Haven was taken over by a financier named Patrick McGinnis. And the biggest thing that he's noted for is he adopted a bright, flashy paint scheme. And this type of engine was the first engine to be painted in this scheme, this red, orange, black, and white. And this is a model of an EP5 electric. And so that was they were the very first engines painted that way. And afterwards, all of New Haven's rolling stock started to receive variations of that. But what we tended to see a lot on the passenger cars was both the pre-war streamliners and the heavyweights would get the black orange or the black shell with the red orange letterboard and white lettering. Well, while I'm researching some New Haven books that I have, I discovered this. They had taken 4 of the pre-war coaches and painted them in this slightly different scheme. As you can see, with the red orange on top, black in the middle, white below the windowsills, that would be a great match behind the EP5 locomotive. And if you notice on the captions, oh, and by the way, I want to say all the photos of prototype cars are used by permission of the New Haven Railroad Historical and Technical Association. But so there were 4 cars painted this way. As they say, number 8270, 8295, 8369, and 8392. And they were only painted that way for 6 months, but that was good enough for me. So I resolved that I'm going to make some New Haven cars like that. It turns out they also had some round roof baggage cars, and they only took and repainted 2 of those in the McGinnis scheme, as you see, with the red, again, with the red orange letterboard, red orange doors, and then the black body, white lettering. So this was my first car I started. I had a little help. This car was originally an American Flyer model 732 operating baggage car. That's why you see the mechanism inside the left-hand door. When the car was operated, the door on the right side would flip open and a figure would push out a baggage cube. I enhanced this car by adding a light bulb inside, which Gilbert did with their operating boxcars. And all the cars came with the Bettendorf style trucks. Okay, the lettering is a combination, which I used on all the cars, is a combination of micro scale, O scale, and HO scale decals. Now, all of the straight lettering, such as the numbers and the Railway Express Agency, I applied manually 1 letter or number at a time using white dry transfers. And there's a little closer view of it. And I tried to make sure that the lettering, all the lettering matched the prototype. So even though these are still could be considered toy train cars because of their general length and the incorrect trucks, I still wanted to take a somewhat prototype look to it. Now, this car is the way Gilbert painted them. This particular car is meant to go with their animated station. People, the station had a vibrating mat, and people would move around mill around the station. And you could park the car at the station, open the left and right doors, and open the gates on the station, and the people would go through the car. And I always thought that Gilbert kind of missed the boat on that by making the guideway the full height of the car from the floor to the ceiling. and putting the frosted windows in. Now, granted, that partially hid the vibrating mechanism, which you can see behind the middle window, which is that's that yellow and a little bit of copper there. That's the vibrating coil. Here's a close-up of one of the entry door, or actually this is the exit door, and you can see how it's so dark that the guideway goes all the way to the top. Well, it turns out you don't really need a guideway that tall. So I started by modifying the car for that, and then I decided that would be one of my McGinnis scheme paint jobs, because all of the painted cars had black plastic shells. So I stripped them using dishwashing detergent, and I'd soak the car for several days in a large container, and then brush it with an old toothbrush and repeat as necessary until I got a clean black shell. And before any collector goes into convulsions, these were all cars that were only, the paint jobs were pretty well dinged up. And, I wasn't destroying like some excellent or mint condition car, which some collectors would go into spasms over. So this is how the car turned out. And so the car body is the black is the natural black of the car body. And then the white paint, I used Testor's 2943 bright white spray. And I masked this using photo frisket film. And the red orange paint is AccuPaint New Haven number 409 red orange. So after decaling, I gloss coated the entire car with Testor's 1261 gloss coat. So I cut the guyways down, as you can see, to the window, below the windowsill level, painted them white to make it more visible of the people inside, and put in clear plastic in place of the frosted plastic. Now, if you look to the left, you'll notice the small window to the left has been frosted. I did that because above that are those two round roof vents. Those would be the roof vents for the restrooms. So I tried to stay close to that. Now, here's a close-up of the entry side. And as I said again, the decals were micro scales. And they actually, even though they are for another scale, they actually scaled out pretty close to prototype. Now, on the real cars, if I refer back to the initial photo of the prototype, you'll see that the N over H was set over the truck bolsters. But I thought that would look a little odd on these cars because the truck bolsters are set so close to the ends of the truck. You see, these have 7 paired windows and 2 small windows. The real cars were either 10 paired windows or 11 paired windows. Now, each of the cars I did was in a matching number to the prototypes. So this is number 8270. And I cut out the vestibules because they were molded solid. And so now you can see down either end of the car, and see people going through the car, because I like animation. And as Jim knows, we just got done working on that modeling project that Cat's Paw is putting together. So one thing always bothered me, though, as I got the whole train built, I had 3 cars going around the layout lighted, and this one wasn't, because the light would only come on when the coil was energized. So I worked out a way so that I could have lighting, but also still be without energizing the coil. So this is a photo of the pickup truck. So there's to the left side, the left side frame has a slot in it for a contact tab. You see to the right of the solder lug, there's a post. Well, I had to insulate all of that. So there's another shot of it. The cloth wire is going to the vibrator. And this was before I started the mod. So the cloth wire is going to the vibrator. The gray wire is one of the light wires. So then what I did was I put a piece of heat shrink tubing over the post that the pickup tab pivots on. And then, and there's a pickup tab. And normally it would be the same, the tab would be the same width all the way out. And what I did was I drilled out the hole on the left so it would easily slide over the stud with the heat shrink on it. And the notches you see just behind the bends of the tab, I filed that down so that I could put heat shrink tubing over that so that it wouldn't shart to the side frame. And the hole you see just about in the middle of the tab was a punch through to help hold the spring. Well, I had to insulate the spring too to prevent it from sharting. So I cut off the tip of a large eyedropper. It was actually an extra Woodland Scenics eyedropper I had, and drilled the hole of the tip of the eyedropper out slightly, and CA glued it over the little punch through stud. And you can also see to the left there the black heat shrink tubing that I used. And there's a head on a top down view of it. And so you can see how it's over the punch through. And I'd had to drill it out just a little bit to make sure the spring wasn't pinched. And there's a view of it with the relief spring and the heat shrink. And there it is installed on the truck. And the final thing I had to do to prevent any sharting between the pickup tab and the stud was I added a white nylon washer you see under the clip holding the contact bar to the stud. And then I added a small solder lug crimp terminal, and I always solder my crimp terminals too for higher reliability. And I moved the cloth wire for the pickup coil to the stud. So now there's the net result. The car does not have to be in the station to be lit. The interiors for all the cars were done essentially the same. For this particular car, because of the space involved in the guideway, I just cut a couple of seats out and CA'd them to the chassis and put a few figures in to help complement the other cars. And there's another shot of the entry end of the car. Now, this is one of the straight shells. This is in a non-operating car. You can see the plain chassis in front of it. I tried to make it look, to the extent that I could, like the inside of the real car. I cut out bulkheads. I custom fit them. I started with one and then used it as a template to make the other ones. So you'll see to the left, there's a bulkhead at the vestibule, and the door is painted on, and I cut out a window in the door. The door is the correct color. It's a French, what they call it, a French gray. And then the ceiling you see is painted white to spread out to help diffuse the light. And now here's another view. It doesn't show up as well because it's so dark, but on the real car, the interior of the car was painted a very dark blue from the floor up to the windowsill. So I did that after I glued in my glazing. And there's another shot of the one end bell of the vestibule. And there's the other end. And I used some PC boards that I had around. And those are actually 2.7 volt lamps. And I'm driving them with a Dally adjustable voltage regulator that will go from 3/4 of a volt up to 6¼ volts. And I set the lamps a little at like 2.5 volts. And as you saw in the previous photo, that gives a nice realistic glow to the car. And on the what you see there, I painted a window on, since obviously I wouldn't want to perforate that because then you'd see the electronics inside. And there's the other end of that. Both end vestibules are cut out. And I tried to paint, I used a little silver paint to try to paint the little door handle on. A little better lighting view.
Chris, I hate to interrupt you, but we've got to close.
Okay.
can zip through it real, if you want me to stop, I can.
No,
or I
no,
can-
no, no, that's fine. Go ahead, but we need to close it up.
Sure. So there's at any rate, there's how I hid the voltage regulator in what would be the restrooms. And I made the seating by cutting down, you can buy separate interior seating from American Models for their Bud cars. I cut off the ends, and there's the result. I painted the seats in the same color as this prototype seating. It was a blue and gray checkerboard floor, which would be nearly impossible to do with this assembly. So the best I could do is I painted in between the seats a blue floor with a gray aisle, and then I highlighted the seat edges with silver paint to try to make them look a little more like the chrome steel seating of the real seats. And there's a little higher, different angle view of it. And there you see one of the lighted cars. And there you can actually see through the doorway window at the passengers sitting in the car. And as I said, every car matches the real car number. And that's all I got.
Anybody have any questions for Chris? Chris, thank you so very much.
Sure.
You did a beautiful job. I really do appreciate you filling in for Joel tonight, and hope you'll come back often. I mean, this is fantastic stuff.
Hey, Chris, just one question.
Yes, sir.
So are the moving figures, the vibration physical, so you can't reverse them, can you?
No, they are, the figures have they originally were made with a nap that isn't available, but a good substitute is Surefine paint pad. You need a directional nap, and you have to cut it and glue it on the figures in the correct direction. You know, you could glue it on backwards and have somebody going backwards against the grain if you wanted to, just for fun. But yeah, that's how
I was trying to think about if you could simulate having people walk around in the train car. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, the mat works best in one direction. They do mill around on the station platform. I would have to, I could show a video of that, but I would want to shoot that and give it to Ed to display, since we have had trouble with video sometimes.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
You just needed a final picture of all four of them sitting there with the engine.
yeah, but that makes for a long, skinny picture. But yeah, with the baggage car so I have the operating baggage, one operating car, operating passenger car, and 3 additional cars. But like you say, with that EP5, it makes a beautiful looking train. And I call it the Gilbert coulda, woulda, shoulda, because they really could have done it. All they would have needed was some paint masks. Now, maybe they wouldn't have bothered with the interior like I did, but I looked to putting more prototypical trucks under it, but the only ones available had a longer wheelbase, and that actually interfered with the car body. So I figured I'd just leave it with the kind of trucks that Gilbert would have made it with, which is, they always use that Bettendorf's, that same freight truck on those particular cars. They didn't change their trucks till they got to the streamline cars. So but it's got as much detail as I can put in it with what I was working with.
I think you did a beautiful job. Thanks so much for sharing.
Sure.
Look forward to hearing some more about your work, because I think you do such a fantastic job, Chris. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, now we need to go to the My Bill segment of the show. And before we do, I want to run the sponsor's video for this segment, which is Dan Darty's company, Model Railroad Resource, LLC.
Welcome to the world of scale, O&S railroading. We are your resource for all O&S scale modeling. Both our magazines are advertiser supported and free to read online, download as a PDF,
or even print. All advertisers are hot linked to their website, so if you see something you like, just click. Please check out our websites for the current issues. All back issues available free for the O-Scale resource and the S-Scale resource magazines. And, if you are a manufacturer, distributor, or retail establishment, please contact us through our website for advertising opportunities.
And now I want to introduce the host for this segment. Actually, it's co-host. It's Chris Course and Greg Cassidy. So, gentlemen, welcome.
Chris Course and Greg Cassidy. You out there, Greg?
Yep, I'm here.
All right.
Mostly.
All right. Looks like, yeah, I know. I got to be at work at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, so this is going to be a fun day tomorrow. All right. First up, we have Martin. You up, Martin?
I'm sort of here.
All righty. Looks like you've got 9 slides tonight.
That many? Oh boy.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. So this is one of my trolleys that was completed a couple of, well, 2 or 3 months ago now. This started off as a McGregor kit collection of parts, not a complete kit. They came with the ends, the sides, the ends, the sides, and the ends of the roof. So the middle of the roof and the floor were missing. And so everything else, and everything else you see, it's added beyond that. It came from me. So let's just go to the next slide. Yeah, there you can see the front better. So all the detail parts, all the grabs, all the stuff on the roof, all the pantograph and pieces and such. There's a full underbody, well, as full as I could guess with this particular car. So it's just a nice little freight motor. British Columbia prototype, as I recall, what the McGregor kits were. But somebody handed me the parts, and I put it together. Or I fitted it together. The roof was the difficult part here, because you had to find a piece of wooden roof profile that actually matched the beautifully shaped curved ends and marry it all together. So there's a bit of a marriage of inconvenience here, but it worked out okay. Next slide, please. Yeah, there's a side view. So it's all the windows are all and doors are all glazed. And, just various different types of plastic, colored plastic or white plastic I had handy. You can see some of the underbody there. And it's powered. There's a power truck with, I believe, a pair of magic carpet drives underneath of it. So it's all under the floor. So there's no holes in the floor with a motor sticking up in the middle of the trolley. I really don't like using those drives otherwise. Probably not the right side frames, but I really don't care. I'm just happy to have something that makes it go around on the track. Next slide, please. And just the other end. And you can see the controls were I put controls in the cabs at both ends. There's fun painting up these little tiny control unit pieces and assembling them and sticking them in there literally in place from above before you put the roof on. Oh yeah, and the roof on this is put on with a pair of 2 3/8 inch, after I got done cutting them down a little bit. Make it maybe 2 1/4 inch drywall screws. So there's actually a pair of screws coming up through the floor behind the vestibules on the inside into the roof, holding it all together. It's a bit of an adventure, holding the roof to the body, drilling a hole through the floor into the roof, and making sure it all lines properly, and then threading the screw through it and hope that you hit the hole. So, you know, it only takes 3 or 4 hands, but it can be done. Next slide. This is a traction freight trailer that I also finished a couple of months ago. Well, like within the last 3 months. This was a brass body shell. It had no doors, no roof, no floor, no trucks, no details of any kind. The ladders weren't there. Nothing was there except the brass body. So everything I've added a roof. I fortunately have roofing stock that worked just perfectly for this particular car. All the other parts were soldered on. The doors, though, are styrene, built up from lots and lots of pieces of styrene. There's a basic underbody, and I had a pair of brass trucks that were conveniently married to a pair of Athearn bolsters, which put springs in them, and they actually rolled half decently. So I was rather pleased with that. Next slide. And just another view of the same car from the other end. You can see the brake wheel on the box on the end of this in this photo. But there's got a brake cylinder complex underneath of this as well. And I actually lettered this one up, but I haven't been lettering very many cars because I haven't been sure whether I was going to keep them or not. But I like this one so much I went ahead and lettered it for my own Chambersburg, Greencastle, and Waynesboro system. So we'll keep this one. Next, if there is a next. Yep. Oh, yeah, there's the end. You can see the end. So yeah, you can see this really nice detail in the brass work on the anti-climber and the holding pockets, but the brake system is what I've added to it. So it's a really nice precision scale brake wheel and a gearbox behind it, and a little bit of chain that was linked into it just to complete the picture. And there's some roof mats up on the top. I think those are ancient Wagner parts. They're white metal. You just trim them to length and fold them down to conform to the roof contour, glue them down, walk away. They're done. Next slide. And there's the rest of the roof. You can see just wooden roof with tar paper, my napkin system over wood with lark dark gray and wooden walkway. That pretty much ended that car. It should be, I think that's all my slides, I hope.
Yep,
Nope, there's the underbody. Well, the basic brake cylinder underneath of it. There's nothing else really underneath there. There's scribed siding wood, needle beams which were made up out of styrene channel back to back with a piece of styrene in between them to give it a little extra thickness to support the queen posts. And those are brass wire truss rods. They're anchored near the they're anchored down back at the underneath. You can't see it. They're anchored down back towards the car bolsters. There's a little mounting pad that was soldered to the end of each piece of wire that's actually glued down in place. And a radial coupler added. So you want to go around real tight curves, you can do that with traction, even with big cars. And that maybe is the last slide.
Yeah, it is the last slide.
Hooray! I'm done.
Yay! Are there any questions for Martin?
Nice traction modeling, Martin. Really beautiful.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
fantastic.
I forgot to mention the McGregor car was just published in the current issue of O-Scale Resource.
Yeah. Very nice.
Thank you. And on to the next victim.
All right, I'm just typing this real quick here.
Just want to say I love the radial couplers.
Yeah. They're not the nice cast ones from Q Car or Wagner or the these are the do-it-yourself version. It's a brass casting with that the KD will fit over with work. That brass casting is about 10% too big for a KD, despite advertised otherwise. So time with a Dremel, cutoff wheel, and a file, and they pop on eventually. And the KD's held on with a 256 screw. So they you got to have radial couplers to get around these corners.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But they work.
Oh yeah, these are functional. These are operational with the KD ones, as opposed to all the other commercial ones, which are they're dummy couplers and all the rest.
Yeah.
So these are, when I looked into finding these castings, I was rather pleased. So I have to figure out a way to replicate them or solder up something similar out of brass stock.
Alrighty. Any more questions or comments for Martin? Right. Fantastic work as usual, Martin. Thank you for sharing.
All right.
We will move on. Looks like Greg, you've got 16 slides. You up for that?
Oh, yeah, I am, but we'll get through them fast, Chris. Keep your finger on that arrow button.
All right. I think thought I put Ed in there too, but okay. All right. Maybe Ed came up after you. All right. Let's see here.
All right. A friend of mine gave all of this to me. It's a Craftsman Carolina Kits dorm house, one of their nice kits, and some of the Knox sexy scenes. He said, Greg, can you build me a house of ill repute? And I said, sure, I'll give it a try. And don't worry, this is purely G-rated, so you don't need to send the children away. Next. So the first thing I figured I had to do was figure out how I was going to work out the rooms on the second floor. So I needed to know where the windows were. So I made a little mock-up with all the windows showing where they were, and then started out on my floor plan. Next. One of the things that I had to get rid of was a second fire escape. The kit came with 2 fire escapes, and I didn't have room for that. So I filled one of them in with a big window, and the other fire escape I moved down to where the floor was going to be. Next. Once I got all the furniture, which included the furniture that came with the sexy scenes, plus some furniture I got off of eBay, I found that I only had enough room for 4 rooms, plus a bathroom and the stairs going downstairs. So that's how it all worked out. Next. So once I started building the kit, I realized I couldn't have any bracing inside the second floor because it was all going to be obvious. So I glued the kit together first. I made the second floor. And then after everything was glued together, I went ahead and started my staining and painting. I first put driftwood stain on the building. Next. Then I dry brushed on my favorite color, which I call Yuck. It's kind of a mix of a couple different things. And it doesn't really have any color, but once you put it on, especially if you put it on lightly, it looks like it's peeling paint. Next. Then I started working on the rooms upstairs, building the walls. I'd gotten some tissue doors that would work for the interior doors, and I started laying everything out according to my floor plan. Next. Now, all of the rooms were going to have to be wallpapered, so I actually had my wife help me, and we looked up some Bordello wall prints, and I found a few. I sized them down and printed them out. Next. I also had to do some interior detail on the first floor, even though it wouldn't be as noticeable. So I put in a back wall and a bar, and it was going to have a lounge in the front area. Next. So this was once I started putting the wallpaper in place. It was pretty easy. I just cut the wallpaper to size and then glue it in with rubber cement and then cut out the holes for the windows. Next. Of course, if you go into this much detail, I had to put in all the baseboard around the flooring as well. That's just regular 1x1. Next. Then I started putting all my furniture in place. And I painted it all. That took a lot of the time. And then laying everything out, because each room was going to have some activity going on in it. Now, the office is supposed to be the madam's room, but one of the things he had gotten me, there was something going on the desk, so I had to have an office up there. Next. Now, one of the things I had to do was put curtains in, but often when you put curtains in a building, you can just print them out on paper and it doesn't matter what they look like on the inside, but I had to have these look good on the inside and the outside. So I printed them on tissue paper and hung them up. And that way they work for looking from both sides. Next. And this is how it all got laid out before I put the figures in place. And it worked out pretty good. No, Bill, the interior walls, I just used 1/8 inch basswood. And next. Then, of course, all of the rest of the stuff that you do when you're building a model, putting the windows in, putting all of the details on the outside. I built the fire escape for the outside and added some details. This is the back of the building. Next. And then this is the front of the building. You have the front entrance, which leads into the lounge, and then a side door that leads into the bar area, and the back door, which leads right to the back stairs that go upstairs. And I asked him if he wanted any kind of marking or anything, and he said, no, where he's going to put it, everybody in the neighborhood knows what it is, so we didn't need anything on it. So that's my house of ill repute. And I delivered it to him a couple of weeks ago, and it's happily in place now. And the roof is easily removable for when he wants to show off the interior. And if you want to see what it looks like with the figures, go to my YouTube channel, Greg Cassidy's Workshop, and you can find it there, and you can actually see the figures in place.
Cool. All righty. Fantastic work. Once again, Greg. Are there any questions for Greg? Comments, concerns?
Greg, is that O scale?
No, it's HO.
Oh, darn it. It's nice and beautiful job. Beautiful job.
Well, the kit's available in O scale, and I wouldn't be surprised if those knock figures are as well. I don't know, though.
And what's the roof? It's just wood.
The roof, I just used standard 1/8 inch basswood and then made some supports for it that fit right inside the gable ends. And then I covered it with some of that corrugated metal that I just rusted it using pigments.
Is this one of the kits that going back to O scale? Is this one of the Kershaw kits now?
Yeah, Jeff Grove's Carolina Craftsman kits. He spun off all of the O scale stuff to Kershaw, and I think Paul has put out this one as well as a few of the others. Whether he still has it available or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was.
But
on
it's
last
called the
week,
Laurel
Mr.
Bank
Bassman.
Restaurant.
Alrighty. Any more questions for Greg? Oh, thought I heard something, but okay. All right, thanks, Greg.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Hope you're feeling better. We'll move on to Cliff Flatten. Yep, Cliff. Thought I saw you earlier. Yeah, okay. I thought he was up earlier, but
I don't see
all
him
right.
at all.
Yeah, okay. All right, we can go through his stuff. I know they're 1/64th, which is S scale, and this is more of the things that he's working on. He showed us some of these trailers in the past, and
I am
and,
here. I just couldn't
there
get
you are.
myself unmuted.
Okay. All right. Looks like you got 8 slides tonight.
Yep. This one I just completed and just shipped it out. It's a mobile home that a young lady grew up in Montana when she lived with her grandma. It's S scale, like all my other work. Basswood. The metal roof is the that silver plumber or silver tape they use for furnace ductwork. It makes it's the most flexible, great stuff to use. Absolutely love it.
That's nice.
And this is another one. This one I am doing for a previous client. He's having it built for a friend of his. I got all the shutters with the tiny little pine trees cut in, and they came out really good. So I'm about 3/4 of the way done with this one. It's going to have an actual screen door in it. If you ever get those little gift bags of little candies or something like you get at a wedding, that screen is the perfect window screen for any model. I love to use it. And I thought, you know what? I found travel trailers in S scale, and I thought, you know what? I sold fifth wheels and travel trailers for years. I thought, let's try to make a fifth wheel trailer. So this one's like a 40-foot long fifth wheel trailer that I just mocked up out of cardboard. Came out kind of fun.
It's something.
Yeah. Actually, there's one not too far from here that looks a lot like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've been trying to figure
I mean,
out how to make it so I can have slide outs on it. And
well, yeah, I'm talking the wood part of it. It's quite something.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, I mean on it.
Actually. Oh, yeah.
Somebody tried to redo it, and I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Oh Lord. Yeah. This is the Sinclair station that I'm working on. I was going to do a Conoco station in honor of my dad because he used to work for Conoco, but I got hooked on the Sinclair with the dinosaur. All the letters and the dinosaur are all cut out, painted, and then reinserted back into the sign. So it's like 1, 2, 3. It's a multiple piece sign. The station is all made out of the basswood that I like. Just kind of came out pretty good. I'm going to do another one, but I'm going to use a more high gloss paint because that's what that porcelain would have been instead of the satin finish that I have looking on it.
Huh. That's something.
And here is more work on the barn.
Yep.
That you guys saw last time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to make this, and still got to put some steps in and a few other things, but got to paint the roof. Don't want to leave it the brown, but all the X's on the door is my laser does such an awesome job. It's cardboard that I cut into my X's for my cross supports.
Huh.
And this is the Voyager Hotel that I'm working on. I live in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I went down one night and I started shooting pictures of all of the decorative soffitting around the top. And again, I need to put more detail pictures in future ones, but they're quite a detailed little support that I got cut out. And just use my paper. I don't remember if I put this one on. This was one of my first big projects. It's a set of row houses that I did when I first got my laser printer. And it did just this. I love the detail I can do, like with the railing around the porch. It cuts it out, but it's super fragile when it's done. So painting it gives a little bit more strength, but this was a fun project. It got me a couple of commissions from a couple of the doctors at the hospital I work at once it was completed. Everybody said they wanted to move into it. This was one of my houses I did for a winter scene. Just use some of that fluffy angel hair stuff. It's a stucco house. I use sandpaper for the walls. This one I used Tichy windows before I started making my own windows. This was actually built before I got my laser cutter. But it just was a fun little project for winter.
All right, cool. Fantastic work as usual.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Cliff?
Cliff, what grit sandpaper did you use for your stucco?
That was, oh man, it was the fine. I think it was like a 220.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I went with a real fine. I've experimented with that textured spray paint that you can get. I don't know. I didn't get great results. I like the sandpaper better.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been toying a little bit with taskboard for stucco walls.
Oh yeah, I haven't tried that yet.
How's it working, Chris?
It's working fine. Well, I haven't done anything with it in a while. It works okay, but the thing you have to keep in mind is that you have to use a very, very sharp knife with it, because the taskboard, it's like I would say it's like working with very thick paper towels. But it's hard enough that if you can get it, if you can cut it, it'll have a really nice effect to it. That church that I put out a few years back is made of that.
I'll be darned.
So, all right. Well, not to steal back from Cliff, but anyway, are there any more questions for Cliff? All right. Well, thanks for sharing, Cliff. And
You bet.
we will move on to. Oh, looks like you've got one more.
Oh, that was another experimental when I was trying my hand at trying to make a very contemporary house. I mocked it up with foam core, and I just haven't had the strength to try to do it again, because it's just a lot of weird angles and trying to get everything for it's going to be like a big tile style house with huge windows, but it was a trial to see what I could do at the time.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, holy mackerel. We've got a ton of last ones here.
This was a little cottage I made for a 30s, 40s motor court that I was working on a year or so ago. And this just happened to be one of the little cottages that I built for it. I used that shiny corrugated paper that I get at Joann Fabrics to give me that metal roof, and discovered that I liked the other stuff better. It muted down a little better than this. It was a little too shiny. But I think that's the last one.
All right. Nope.
Oh no.
Well, we've got a bunch more.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Actually, are those all you? Yeah.
Yep. Those are all me. That's
Okay.
my foam core days when I was first starting out making stuff and kept finding houses that I wanted to try, and chitchy windows on it again. And then that's one of my little lean-tos. I had a lot of requests for those. I just painted all the boards individually, and then I just chopped them up and made my wall.
Yeah, I did a project similar to that myself. I thought it was fun. Just
yeah,
taking
that was a lot of fun.
Just purposefully throwing random colors at it and seeing what happens.
Gives it a more unique look. And then this is the overlook of the little city block I'm doing with the hotel and the little diner. And I haven't decided what the other buildings are yet. And then there's another shot of the barn and the Quonset after I gave it a little gray shot.
Yep, with the Sinclair gas station.
With the Sinclair stuck in the middle now. Yep.
Cool.
I think that's the last one.
Yeah, I think so too. Because
Okay.
if I remember right, it was like, oh, this should be the last photo is kind of a culmination of everything. So
Right. Yep.
all right. All right. So once again, any questions for Cliff or comments? All right. Well, thanks, Cliff.
You bet.
All right, Bill Hawk, you up, Bill?
I am
So-
here.
All right. Okay. Looks like you have 10 slides. Hopefully I didn't screw that up. And I think I need to apologize to Ed Katie because I think somehow his slides got missed. So Ed, we will get you first thing next month.
So this just a little backstory here. Bought a new house a year ago. It's got a basement large enough to put something in. So started a layout. So I've been working on it for 9 months. So got everything going. There's some track. Oh, that's scale, by the way. A combination of American model stuff and flyer stuff. And anyway, so I'm an architect by trade, but I haven't modeled anything since by hand for 20 years or something. So I started out small, and I likened it to the primitive hut theory in architecture, where it's just basic shelter. So I started with this tiny little Monster Model Works engineer's tool shed. Go on. You can go to the next. So some of this is sort of standard here. Put the corners on the wall, get them glued in, and let it dry. Go to the next. Some of the standard stuff. Put the walls together, let it dry. Go to the next. Put the walls together. There's some bracing in the middle for the roof and for the walls, just a little bit. Go on. And then I was onto some painting and some weathering. This was cheap acrylic apple barrel Walmart. I don't know where I got it. Mixed up some color until I got what I wanted, and then I used the Tamiya weathering powder. I just scraped the white into some IPA, made a little mix, and that's what I used for the wash or the grout lines. Go ahead.
Yeah, that looks fantastic right there.
Yeah, these laser cut, I mean, the laser cutting is really, it's got a nice surface texture to it that you can't really fault too much. And then painted the sills and the base, sort of mucked up gray concrete color. Keep going. You can keep going. Window pieces again. These are frames on plastic. Cut them down to fit. Get them to work in the hole. Lots of filing and sanding and squeezing. This was the most fiddly bit. The canopy glue that I had didn't work, so I had to try something else, and finally got something to glue for that. I made that little extra step coming out from the door. I thought that would work better. The roof is the kit provides a piece of just gray chipboard. So that is black spray paint with the grout dust that comes off the exposed brick wall in my house. I sweep it off the floor, and I have a little container of it, and I spread that on there as to make the surface. The terracotta color for the wall cap didn't come out quite the way I wanted it, but it looks good. It works. You can keep going. Next, there we go. A little low angle. You can see some of the relief detail in that brickwork. I tried getting the lineup of the corner bricks as best I could. That's probably the weakest area of these, like how those bricks carry around those corner pieces. They'll work on that. But it has these little rafters that stick out underneath the roof. Painted those and stuck them in there. You can keep going. Next. And then when I was taking the pictures, you can see it in here, the light from my desk light, you could see into through the windows, and just the general room light you could see. So I decided to make a floor, and that was that last picture. And that's just tongue depressors cut up, scraped down, and weathered in that last picture for the floor. So inside, I didn't paint the inside of the model in any particular color, so you can see some light. I might decide to light it if I ever get into lighting that far along in my journey with the layout. That's the last one.
Yep. It's got the L at the bottom, so we're good. All right. This is quite the just Monster Model Works puts out some great stuff, and I think that makes it easier on the modeler to do a great job, and this is no exception. This came out fantastic.
Yeah, Bill, that's a great job that you did. I think Jimmy Simmons does some of the best brickwork in the industry, and I've had to match up those corners, and they're not easy to do. You've done a good job there.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for Bill? All right. Well, thanks, Bill. Thanks for sharing. First timer.
Yes.
So that's much appreciated.
Welcome.
All right. And now we'll move on. Jeff Jordan, looks like you got 13.
Yep, they're groups though.
All right.
This is continuing in my Colorado adventure and my inspiration coming home from Colorado to get to work on Colorado scenes. And so I visited this location, though there's nothing there today except grassy fields, to work on Lizard Head. And so there's a prototype photo of the area I was looking for. And you've previously seen my snow shed, but I wanted everything else in this picture. The section house, which is prominent in the photo, and then hidden just behind the goose there is a speeder shed. And though this area was photographed like crazy, nobody ever took a close-up picture of the speeder shed. So I had a challenge to model the speeder shed. Next, please.
Yeah, that was you had basically two that were fairly similar.
Yeah, I'm having a little problem. There we go. Okay, that's the other one now. That's a black and white photo. Again, you can see a bit of the speeder shed in the back there. And that was a challenge. I went through book after book after book looking for the speeder shed until I got enough of a look at the speeder shed that I could estimate the dimensions to build a model of it. And of course, there's a challenge on the section house. Notice the texture of the walls there. They think those were made out of bridge timbers. And so I wanted to try and capture the texture of the bridge timbers. And so somewhat unusual, but I used balsa wood for the side because balsa has got a much more rugged surface than the basswood, which would have been much too smooth. So turn the page. Incidentally, here we go. I spent a lot of time anticipating the construction of this model, trying to collect materials. And you can see how the balsa wood there has given it a nice rugged texture on the sides. The windows are from Tichy. The chimneys are from Grantline. The roof is printed paper from Clever Models, but I have painstakingly put vertical cuts between the shingles to give them a little bit more emphasis. The side of the building was actually an adventure as well to try and get that washed out paint effect. The balsa wood, before it got assembled, was stained with hunterline gold, golden oak stain, something to give it a yellowish woody color, and then overpainted with heavily thinned depot buff, which is the appropriate color for. And as you see the different sides, you'll see there's a lot of variation in the depot buff, and more wood or less wood showing through on the sides. You'll also notice that the ends there are log cabin style notched. And so each piece of balsa wood had to be notched in that fashion. There's about 10 courses of quote unquote logs there to build up the walls. And it takes about 13 separate pieces on each course because of the cuts for the windows and doors. Next picture. I think we've got some more sides of this building.
Yeah.
And that, there we go. There's the south end with the lizard head sign. And in the later years, so this building at one time was described as a depot. I can't imagine that they picked up or dropped off a lot of passengers at Lizard Head Pass. It's in the middle of no place. The only thing that was there were some livestock pens. So maybe the drovers hung out in the station waiting for the train or something. But eventually it became the section chief's home. And so his wife did a little bit to decorate it, and the photograph shows some curtains. So we've got some tissue paper curtains in the window. The lizard head sign is actually made with decal paper. And I printed my own lizard head decals to letter the sign. And again, notice lots of grain in the wood and a variation in the stain. And those are the two sides that are easy to model. The other two sides are much less frequently photographed, but I found the 1963 issue of Model Railroader had a plan for this building and showed all four sides. Next side, I think, is the north side of the building. There you go. And again, you can see the north side gets more weather, so it's even more beaten up looking. And we've got a platform there. The little shed in front, again, nobody took a picture of the building from this angle. So there's a debate whether that shed just opens into the building or whether there was a door on the outside, or even what it was for. Some people think it may have been to hold coal for heating, but it's not clear. And in any event, it's there. And I made my own board and batten siding to do that. This is one of my forays into wood scratch building. You've seen my past efforts in evergreen styrene, but for the rough texture of this building, nothing else but wood would do. Next slide, please. I think the next slide is probably going to be the speeder shed.
Yep.
Which I had to, from some photographs, there she goes, the speeder shed, find photographs that I could estimate the scale of the building off of. And then it's entirely stick built. The sides and the boards on the top there are coffee stirrers. The doors are some Mount Albert scale lumber. And of course, the whole thing is stained. And you can see in the pictures, it was never painted, and it has a little deck out front. And since I've completed this, there's now a track speeder sitting on that deck. Keith Weissman makes a really nice model of a track speeder appropriate for 1920s, 30s, 40s. And so it's parked in front of the open door now. Next slide. The roof was very hard to determine what it was made of. But there are very few color pictures of the structure. And in one of them, it was quite shiny. So, and it appeared to be, again, some sort of board and batten construction. So I did board and batten, and then it's silver, but then heavily weathered with weathering powders. And again, I think it compares favorably with the prototype photos. And, you know, the great secret of wood modeling is how much you can do with coffee stirrers. I think that siding came out really well. And all that is from a box of 1,000 coffee stirrers from Amazon. Works out to like less than a penny a board. Next slide. I give you the other thing that is present or was present at Lizard Head was a great deal of snow fence. And there's some snow fence. And that, of course, is just scratch built from boards. And since my railroad is in the summertime, I decided that they were out doing some repairs. So there's a couple of fresh boards on the repair of the snow fence. Otherwise, it's, again, just scale strip wood, heavily weathered with either driftwood, I think, as opposed to the Thai brown. And again, gave a really nice, and I'm pretty sure the Model Railroader article had the plans on how to make the snow fence. So I got a section of snow fence in place there. And then now, ever since the photographs were taken, I've actually begun to put some real scenery in there. Next slide. I think the next slide is probably an overview of all the things in place.
No, it's another snow shed or
Oh.
snow fence.
More snow fence?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just showing the snow fence from the back and how it goes together.
Seems like quite a delay tonight.
Yeah, it does look a little snow flipping over now. I could have had miles, but that's what would fit. And so you can see the assemblage in there and just the rough beginning of the scenery starting in there. But everything in the scene is scratch built. Over on the left, the snow shed, the speeder shed, the section house, but for the windows, doors, and chimneys, and the snow fence. Also, I decided this is one of the few places on the railroad where the track actually is higher than the ground and the structures. And so elsewhere, my scenery comes right up to track level, but here there actually will be some elevation and a little bit of ballast. This was actually the high point on the railroad. You could go north and lose elevation, or go south and lose elevation. And so the snow shed was actually there to cover a Y, so they could turn the helper engines in the winter when there was snow on the ground. Also, they could turn the rotary snowplow, because rotary snowplows don't back up real well. So they had a huge covered Y. And at one time, the snow shed actually extended all the way across the area in the picture, and the station and the speeder shed faced a hole in the snow shed. But about 1940, the south end of the snow shed burnt down, and they never rebuilt it. And so that's about my era. And plus, it's easier to see the buildings that way. And I may go back, actually, in the late period, the shingles started to fail, and they covered part of the roof with tar paper. And so I, up at the Pittsburgh at the convention, I picked up some tar paper. So I made partially tar paper the roof. But here we are at Lizard Head. I'm really happy how this came out. If you compare it to the prototype photos, I think it really captured the spirit of Lizard Head, which is one of the prominent points on the Rio Grande Southern Railroad.
Yeah, I think with the balsa wood, you really nailed the effects of the wood, the aging, and how it was rough cut back then.
Yep. Yeah, it's an usual finished construction material for model railroad structures, but here, this was exactly the right place for it. And I've got a bunch of leftover balsa wood. I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Make an airplane with it.
Yeah, when I bought, I was checking out at Hobby Lobby with several packages of balsa wood, and the guy at the cash register says, "Oh, you're building model airplanes?" I said, "No, it's actually for my model railroad."
Great
Alrighty.
looking models, Jeff. I was just wondering, is that American Models Flex Track, and whose roadbed is that?
The track is micro scale. You can see the really tiny spikes. And the roadbed is Woodland Scenics foam, which was new for me for this layout. All my locomotives on this layout have sound, and I really like to have the roadbed as a result be really quiet and not transmit any sound. And I found that using the foam roadbed works really well. I glue it down with DAP Alex caulk, which drives hard but flexible. So the junction between the roadbed and the sub wood there stays flexible. And then the track is actually glued to the foam roadbed as well, which makes her very quiet operating properties. And if you change your mind and want to change anything, you can take a paint scraper and lift the track without destroying the foam. And you can lift the foam from the wood without destroying the foam.
Nice.
Well, beautiful modeling.
Thank you.
Wasn't one other question, the galloping goose in your first photo, isn't that running at the Colorado Railroad Museum now?
Yeah, they're actually amazingly, there were 7 geese, and 6 of the 7 exist today at various railroad museums. They have one at the Colorado Railroad Museum. They have one in Dolores, Colorado, which I saw this summer, and it sits on 100 feet of track, but it's in operating condition. And during the course of the season, they'll pick it up on a flatbed truck and take it either to Durango and run it on the Durango or Silverton, or over to Chama and run it on the Cumbres and Toltec.
Huh.
And there's one of them is out in California at Knott's Berry Farm as well.
Yeah, I think there's pretty sure there's one at Strasburg also.
Yeah, like I said, 6 of them exist, which is pretty remarkable considering the history of the railroad and its circumstances, that all but one goose was preserved. And subsequent to taking these pictures, I got out, I have a precision scale goose with the Wayne bus body. And as you saw in one of the original photographs there's a photo of that goose parked in front. And so I took a picture with it parked right in front. And no comparison, the prototype photo. This what I'm doing is I don't have that big layout, but I'm trying to have a couple of vignettes of prominent spots on the Rio Grande Southern, and this is one of them.
It looks great. Chris, this to me, this is exactly the kind of modeling that you wanted done in your idea for the new segment on the show.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, this is just fantastic.
Thank you. I'm really, really pleased with how this came out.
Well, and particularly to get it to look that close to the actual prototype. And, with a couple of scenes like that on a model railroad, it doesn't have to be a huge model railroad to really be appreciated.
Well, what I do on my layout is I actually have photographs of the prototype location and the model. And I've got 3 places now where I've got that. No, this is the best one so far, is Lizard Head. I also have Vance Junction. You've seen the Vance Junction coaling tower previously. And I'm also working on some of the buildings at Ophir. And though I couldn't model the Ophir Loop, I have some of the buildings at Ophir and going up the hillside and a photograph of that location. So people can look at my model and look at my inspiration with the prototype.
Great idea.
Very cool. All right. Are there any questions for Jeff? Well, thanks for sharing once again, Jeff. It's much appreciated. And this is food for thought for some people that are contemplating doing some projects.
Super. Thank you.
All right. Oh, looked like you had one more. Yep, there's your galloping goose.
Yep, I didn't remember that. I guess I sent that one to you late because I liked it so much. So compare that with the prototype photo at the start, and you got the goose stopped at Lizard Head, probably to put water in the radiator. After climbing up from Ridgeway, it would boil a lot of water.
All righty. Well, thanks, Jeff. And our second new entry or new person of the night, Steve Montgomery. You up, Steve? All right. Sounds do you see him out there, Pat?
No, I do not.
Okay. All right. All right, so we will go on with what we know. I believe this is a picture of him with his switching layout, and I believe that's HO scale. It's a time saver. I don't know if that's a John Allen or not. I think the John Allen has 3 tracks on it. But anyway, all right. So in going through these slides from, he didn't really send us much information, but it looks like there's a bunch of Ambroid stuff on here. And this one may be a little bit, I don't think it's quite an Ambroid because I'm looking at the doors. It looks like it's got a plastic roof. These that have a plastic roof on them.
Chris, he models kits from the 60s.
Okay.
And all of his kits, that he builds are wood kits. But they're old kits, by manufacturers who may not be or a lot of them are
Like
Android. I think there's a Gore line and some of those old kits.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, because I'm thinking that this might be a red ball or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Or it might be yield Huff and Puff stuff.
Could also be Campbell kit.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
Here we have some couple of cars. This is an Ambroid snowplow.
Well,
That I know. Because that's looks like he did a heck of a job on that kit. Because that kit I've looked at it and I've kind of attempted a little bits and pieces of it, but it's a tough kit. Particularly around the plow.
It is a very tough kit. No question. Yep.
Beautiful locomotive in the background too.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I believe this is a helium car. Is that correct?
I think so, and I think that's Android.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
What's that?
That's an Ambroid kit, the helium car.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then Von Allman Pickle Company. I think I've got one of those kits around here somewhere. I think that might also be an Ambroid.
It is. And some of these, I think, are those old 1 of 5,000 kits that Ambroid came out with way back.
Yeah. And then let's see.
That is too.
Photograph car. I think this, I'm wondering if this might be a roundhouse.
I don't know.
I've seen it somewhere. Actually, you know what? I'll bet you it's a red ball. Because it's fairly similar to another kit that I have that's a red ball. It's a fruit car.
Yeah, I think you may be right. That
I don't have a clue on this one because it looks. I wonder if maybe this is Funaro. An F&C car?
Don't know. I do not know.
Not sure on this one.
Yep.
Poultry car.
Yep.
Those poultry cars are, pretty sure that's an Ambroid also.
Yes.
All right. So that was kind of quick, but some nice modeling there. Thanks for sharing, Steve. Hopefully you just were having some connection issues or whatever and couldn't get on. But anyway, the next My Build is not September 18th because that was tonight. The next My Build is the October Challenge or layouts, finished, in progress. Switching layouts, modules, dioramas, whatever you can make fit into those categories. Whatever you're working on, please share them. That show will be October 16th. Please email me your photos to railrunner130@hotmail.com. And please get them to me by October 13th. That way I can get them in. I apologize to Ed Katie. He sent me stuff today and I got the information in, but I didn't get the pictures to into the slideshow. So that's my fault. I apologize for that. And we'll be sure to get Ed next time around. Then after the October 16th, the next regular My Build will be November 20th.
Yeah.
So thanks to everybody that participated. Here is the list of My Build challenges. November will, of course, be the free-for-all. December will be interiors because everybody's going inside this time of year or that time of year. The insides of buildings, engine houses, caboose interiors, that sort of thing. Then, of course, back to January, we've got a free-for-all where anything goes. February, the kit bashes, scratch builds, those sorts of things. We've got, I think we've got that pretty well handled. I think we've got a lot of people that like to do a lot of kit bashing and scratch building. So I think that ought to be a pretty popular show. Again, March will be a free-for-all. And then in April, we've got the automation, animation, make it move. Whatever you can do to get your railroad people moving. That should be a good show. May again will be a free for all, and then June we're back to water. So and as with anything, whatever you've got that can fit into any of those categories is excuse me is more than welcome. So anyway, thanks to everybody that participated tonight. And if you have not participated, we highly encourage you to participate. Just make sure that you include basically a brief description of what you're, excuse me, of what you're modeling, and be sure to include a photo of yourself if you have not participated in the past. So anyway, I will turn it back over to you, Jim. I believe that is it.
Well, Chris, thank you so very much. It's time for you to go to bed and so you can get up and hit it again tomorrow. But thanks so much for doing this tonight. You too, Greg, and I'm glad you're feeling better from the COVID. Hope you get over it right quick and no further problems with it. And with that said, I think it's time for the caboose. Well, thanks everybody for being here this evening. I hope you enjoyed the show. Most importantly, I hope you learned something. And I really hope that we get some more young people to join us on the show and to show us their modeling. I think it was great that Steve, you found these kids and were able to get them and their parents to join us this evening. Thank you so much for doing that. Until next Wednesday, happy modeling to everybody. Thank you so much for being here this evening.